Hello! Hello, random viewer on the internet. I'm just... So, yeah, but you came here for this, I'm sure, and I'm going to play this because figured I might as well post something on YouTube. It's been months, so... And if I'm going to do it, it's going to be something I want to play. This is what I want to play right now, so... This is going to be a series, I guess. So yes, this is a install, not really fresh, but it is an install, and I'm playing on easy, by the way, and I'm going to tell you why. This is a fresh install of Kerbal Space Program 1.12.5 on Windows with Realism Overhaul, Realistic Regression 1, Real Solar System, as is obvious. And I thought I'd do a video on it because it's fun, or at least it can be. I'm going to try and not really mess with anything here too much, but set this to advanced. Basically, it's just as realistic as you can get is this. Well, as realistic as you can get basically in Kerbal Space Program is with this mod pack, which you can get fairly easily if you have CCAN. But I do not recommend, in fact the people who make this mod do not recommend trying to install it without CCAN, so don't install it without CCAN. If everything's fine here. Okay, everything's fine there. Yeah, sure, I don't think that actually really has an effect, but whatever. Jeb is real. Wow, okay, so we're going to be starting at like the bottom of the bottom, the ultra bottom. So in normal Kerbal Space Program, when you start, you can build a manned rocket that is just like, it's just on a little exploding trash can, and it just propels it upwards at great speeds, and you get some science through magical goo containers. Not here. Here, it's much more realistic, which it can be both curse and a blessing. Sure, whatever. Alright, so as you can see, it gives us this little tutorial here at the start. Default, you start at Cape Canaveral, very historic site with all that stuff. I'm not going to change it because I like it here. Choose your starting programs, and this is very important. So in RP-1, this is kind of how you get your money, as you can see here, through these kind of programs, they're called. And the way they work is you accept them, and you have to complete these contracts to get them done before or at the deadline. So you have to complete all the contracts right in time. Otherwise, I think after this you start losing money, like they start taking money away, or at least after a bit. So yeah, definitely for the best that you do this as fast as possible. Well, do the contracts at least as fast as possible. Now, I'm not great at this, and the deadline here is 1964, and as you can see, it's 1951. And that's on normal speed. You can go at fast speed, and it's 1960, breakneck, 1957. I'm not very good at this, and in fact, half the time I cheat some of these contracts because I don't find them very fun. I won't be doing that for this because obvious reasons. So I'll just accept that at normal speed, and we have another slot. Well, we have a few slots for another one, and I don't like this, so we will be doing suborbital research. The payout is largely the same. So do it normal speed, of course. And now we are making money. Slowly. Build a starting launch complex. Let's go do that. So RP-1 automatically has Kerbal construction time, I think it's called, installed. And of course, this is a more, enhanced version specifically for use with RP-1, but yeah, it has it automatically installed, so that means when you build things, it takes time to build, first of all, and you need to have specific launch complexes for your craft. So we're just gonna make something real simple here, really small. Okay, science core. Now, the difference here is that you can control this, you can't control this. We'll get to this later. Let's give it 200 units of electric charge. 250. 500. I can never remember how efficient the batteries are this early on. Very complicated menu here. It's very big, but it's nothing to worry about. All we need to worry about is the science we put on board. So a barometer and a thermometer. And that's it. Nothing else. So we'll turn these on. And this is the avionics. This is pretty much like a probe core in normal Kerbal program, but we won't be able to control it because of the way things work. So just have to. This is gonna be super boring, but by the time this is out, no one's gonna want to watch this. We'll get like a few seconds in, and they'll be like, "This guy's so boring. He just speaks and speaks and speaks about nothing." Yep, it's a bit of a problem I'm experiencing myself. Okay. Yeah, this is just going to be a really simple thing. Now we have a few options here. This is a really big engine, and if we build a rocket for this, it's going to take a while to build the launch complex. So we'll start off with one of these smaller engines. We've got a few choices here. This is pretty much a non-option for me. This is a very bad engine, so I never use it. Usually it comes down to, for me, the RP or the Veronique. Though, I might just, let's do a quick comparing here. Kerbal Engineer here. This is not included in the Express install. I just get it myself because I like it. What's the rated burn time on this? 47 seconds. So yeah, this is also something else you'll have to worry about when using this mod. These engines can fail, and they will fail. It's just kind of the nature of the things. It's very likely that they will fail. If you, especially early on, engines just kind of suck early on. They're terrible. But you know, the more you fly them, they get better over time, though some engines are just kind of inherently horrible, so that's nice, right? So yes, this is a nice little rocket here. This Veronique has a burn time of 45 seconds, and we're burning it for 33, so we can maybe increase the diameter of this a bit. Yeah, we're overburning it a bit, but it's usually that doesn't really result in any issues unless you're overburning it by a lot, which we aren't. Just want to make sure that everything's kosher here. So early on in the game, like I said earlier, you can't control your spacecraft. They're just kind of free-flying. So a way to deal with this is to give them little fins like this, and just kind of ever so slightly offset them with an angle. What this does is it induces spin, which that might sound like a bad thing, but when you're pointed straight up, it kind of helps to keep it stable. I feel like anyone watching this would probably already know that. Okay, just put a little tiny tin booster. We'll have to stage at the same time because, again, engines fail. And if you have the traditional, normal KSP staging way where you do this separated than this, the propellant in this tank will actually float upwards, and the engine won't be able to get any fuel, and it will fail, and it won't be able to start. So yeah, I don't really care about coloring for this. Yeah, this is gonna be an issue, I feel like, this series is that it's just not going to be very interesting. Whatever. Doesn't matter. It's shiny like a bullet, so... Alright, sound wave 1. I'm not very creative. Okay, there you go. Nice little sounding rocket. Let's simulate this, why not? Yeah, in realism overhaul, you kind of have to simulate your flights before you fly them, so you can be absolutely 100% sure that everything's working as it should be. And I am never 100% sure that everything is working as it should be without these simulations, so it's a good thing they exist, because I do not trust myself, and what I build, I trust even less. And it's nighttime. Alright, viewing experience, I'll just cut to day. Beautiful, okay. I've got some weird ground clipping issues here. That's the Cape Canaveral mod, no doubt. Oh well, it's nothing serious. Okay, so I hope this works. I don't know how this works, so let's see if it works. Then we had an engine failure. Yeah, so simulations also allow for failures of parts and stuff. Usually I turn it off, especially this early on. I forgot to this time, so now we get to watch as the craft fails indefinitely, just because test flight works like that. Test flight's really annoying. Like I said, especially early on in the game. It's just a very big pain. Whatever. Daytime. Wow, look at that. It's so pretty. Let's go. And we have a successful launch. That's not good. That was scary. Alright, so here we go. Spinning up. It's perfect. Not too fast either. It's getting some serious Mach forces here. Just shattered the sound barrier. It's great. This is a little inefficient, I feel like, though. Would probably be better if we used a weaker engine that had a longer burn time, but we don't really have any of those. And our fins are actually heating up and are about to explode. That's wonderful. Alright, look at this. And our apoapsis is 151 kilometers. That's above the atmosphere. So, in real solar system, which is the mod that adds all the real planets, the atmospheric height of Earth extends to 140 kilometers. So above that, you're getting space science. Below that, you're getting flying high science, as you can see here. So here, this is just a projection, of course, so I'm just going to speed through this since it doesn't really matter. As you can see, we would get a decent amount of science early on. It's nothing, you know, super impressive, but it is notable. Very helpful, at the very least. And rest is just standard. It just falls down and it crashes into the surface at incredibly high speeds, or it does that. Oh, that's not supposed to happen. Ferrum Aerospace is also included in realism overall, so it's doing some interesting things aerodynamically. Fun, okay. Well then, now that we know that will work, mostly, we can create the launch complex, put it in the plans or whatever, and then build it. Nice! This is just the easy part, mind you. It gets harder and more fun later on. This is just very boring at the start because you're just launching sounding rockets that just go up and do nothing. But there's a reason I got that X-Blades contract. I imagined it would be much more interesting. And I'm usually right on that, by the way. Okay, sound wave complex. Human rating. We'll strap people on lawn chairs. Just launch them into space. Okay. So yeah, very simple. Show height management. I'll just add this to the plans. Unlock 7 parts. Okay, whatever. Let's leave. So we have, so far we're following the checklist pretty well. We're starting construction on our new launch complex, which will launch our first rockets, which aren't really anything interesting. Now it wants us to get a contract. Probably not a bad idea. Contracts work differently now. They're given to you based off of your programs, which I kind of touched on earlier. Definitely we should get first launch, definitely carbon line, and definitely break the sound barrier with the crew. That one will be a bit interesting. Don't show again. And staffing. So this is interesting. Real quick though, before, just gonna work on this. Supersonic plane development. First we'll get this, then we'll get this. So this will get us, slightly better rockets, including the XLR-11, which was used on the X-1, the first ever spacecraft to, not a spacecraft, aircraft, to break the sound barrier. And if we get supersonic plane developed, we get the cockpit for said aircraft. So it's kind of perfect. Yeah, this is, by the way, very large tech tree. There's a lot of ways to play this game now. If I wanted, I could have gone for better solid rockets, though this is probably the better option in terms of these two. I could have gotten more science, which is always a good idea, but this early on we are very weak in our capabilities, so it's probably best to get some new rockets. Alright, so staffing, researchers will get your science done for you. So as you can see here, this does not research itself. You need some researchers to do it. And as you can see, with just one, this takes quite a while. 2, 3, 4, 5 gets, the time gets shorter and shorter. I'm going to be hiring 20, using all of our free applicants. And I'll hire some engineers. 17 is how much that LC is going to take up. And then I will hire more researchers. Well, hang on. Let me check our budget here. Yeah. We're getting $100 every day. That's decent, I guess. As you can see, this will be done in this month. I can't believe I still don't have this memorized. That's like March, I think. Great. So, in the meantime, what do? Well, we wait for this complex to be done. It's going to be done by the end of the month. And now that it's done, we open the plans and we make Soundwave 1. Or we can't, because it thinks I want it at the hangar. Great. Something you're going to learn really quickly if you play RP-1 is that you will always be going in and out of buildings. There's going to be a lot of loading screens. Only time you really aren't in a loading screen for an extended period of time is when you're doing a really long mission. And those are the fun parts. This is going to take 38 days to build. That's a lot of days for this. And now it's added to the integration list. Yeah, future videos will definitely need a lot of editing to make things less boring, but it's late and I'm tired, so that's not going to be happening today. Sorry. So yeah, this will take a few days to build. There's not really anything we can do about it in the meantime, so now it's going to take 3 days to roll it out. And as you can see, we did lose some money while we were building it because it's not sustainable because of how much money we're using. Yeah, gotta keep a close eye on that budget. Things get expensive fast when you are paying attention. I speak from experience there. But we are playing on easy mode, so we should get slightly more money than otherwise. Again, I'm doing that for entertainment's sake because I've played a few games In fact, all of my saves have been on normal difficulty, and I usually run out of money and end up cheating because I want to have fun. But if we play on easy, then it should be easier for me to not cheat, which is a bit of a problem I have. And it should also make us do more interesting things later on, at least. Alright, so let's see how this goes. And the first rocket has a failure. That's great. See, this is why I normally cheat. Well, this should be interesting. Look at that. Avionics survived. That's like the most important part. Right, well, there's not really any valuable science we can gain here. This ain't stock KSP. You can't get science from sitting at the launch pad. Well then, and I'm sure there was a way I probably could have avoided that too. If I used an engine that was maybe a bit more reliable, that probably wouldn't have happened. If I just used an engine that wasn't the Veronique, it probably wouldn't have happened actually. First launch. Yeah, this didn't happen. That was our first launch. It launched, didn't you see? Yeah. Okay, so this is the annoying part of the process. Again, early on it can be very trivial, and not in a good way. So we'll build another one of those. But while I'm here, let's build something a bit more interesting. So, any rocket enthusiast knows about the V2, which was the first, first real, rocket, I guess. First rocket that was really like the rockets we know and love. It was liquid fueled, it was kind of large for other rockets at the time. I'm going to be building some sort of analog to that. Using the A4 engine. This was used on the V2 missile, as it says in there, and we'll just be strapping this on because it's cheap, easy, it's fairly powerful. For, when you get 238 kilonewtons of thrust in the atmosphere, stopping to sleep on. Let's see, already we've got a nice amount of delta. This thing has a rate of burn time of about 70 seconds. Let's lower the diameter to 1.5 meters. Add some extra science onto this bad boy. Well, I've broken it. Okay. Yep, things break very commonly. Usually it's nothing game-breaking, it's just a little annoyance in your way. Okay. Let's just put a little thing around our engine. This will allow extra fuel, but it also looks nice. How it's calculating this burn time. Let's just do the other way around then. Okay. Yeah, I'm sorry. This is kind of hard to narrate this part of the game. There's nothing interesting really going on. It's just it'll get interesting later. I promise. Please don't leave me. Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that it won't let me pick fuel there. Maybe it didn't, I was just blind. Alright, so if I remember correctly, it's 70 seconds for how long this thing can burn. So we'll let it burn for 70 seconds. Actually, this is under 70 seconds, so we're kind of bang there. That's 87 seconds. That's even better. Right. Fins, very important part, right? Let's do something very standard. Every time I try and do it, I realize that my content is just super boring, that no one will want to watch it. It seems to be a bit of a long-lasting problem now. Long-lasting. See, this is the other problem. I try to be interesting with the way I talk, and I just sound stupid. That's probably fine. That's probably also fine. Yeah, okay, that's fine. That's fine. We could put a camera on this, but we would have to return the vessel, and that's kind of complicated. We'll get into that later. Alright, this vessel weighs 11.3 tons, so we'll have, sure, this can control 12, and can't because avionics this early on are terrible. 750. That's fine, right? Nope. Okay. This might pay. Okay. 12. 500. 600 even. There, finally. Okay. How much does the vessel weigh? Alright. So it works out. We'll call this the... I'm bad at names. But U-D-U-D-R. Udaner 1. Udaner 1. Again, I'm bad with names. Okay. Yeah. No real problem with this. It's inoffensive, I guess. Make this one look pretty, why not? Coloring GUI, coloring GUI, as a Scotsman would say. One particular Scotsman I have in mind, at least. Okay. Checkers. Let's go Ultra V2-esque. Okay. White paint. Perfect. Out of the way. Texture, recoloring GUI, blah 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 blah, whatever, okay. That one there, let's just move, MU. White paint, black metallic. Checkers, blah blah blah. There's better ways to make your rockets look better. This is surface level. But it's easy, which is why I do it. I usually just use like legacy textures options. This is just a bunch of random old textures from the original like RP-0. You know, it's not super diverse, but it did work. It's got a fake reflective in here. It's just a texture that looks shiny. Yeah, works, just not very good. But it was also kind of inoffensive. So, you know, it's easy, it works, no problems there, right? White. Let's go. Black metallic leading edge. Oh, I was doing it wrong. Everything else would be black metallic, so it's shiny and cool. Look at that, that's cool. Udaner one. For the antenna. Where is it? There it is. We'll just do VHF 25 dBm, save on power. There you go, that's inoffensive. Before we build an LC, let's just simulate it 2 hours from now. Okay, on the bed, that's great. I did not realize it was nighttime. I never keep track of this. This is gonna be a problem, I feel like. Like, it's not gonna hurt anything, but it does look very ugly. This ground clipping issue. Okay. Go! That's an engine failure, alright. And we had a bunch of Delta V left too. Nothing's perfect. I really should just disable that for the next few test flight launches, simulations, but you know what? In fact, I think I will. I'll just have to try to remember to click the button next time instead of just rambling on about random things that nobody cares about. What? Oh, it's this bug. Yeah. So, this is an annoying bug that you'll get a lot early on in the game, where if you revert to launch after launching a craft, it'll kind of just spawn above the pad and rip itself apart due to whatever reason. But, you know, it stops later on. Anyway, here, I'll just disable those. So, it would have worked. It just died. So, let's make a launch complex. Udoner complex. The maximum weight shall be 14. Oh god, 14. There you go. Yeah, 3. Height limit. Raise that to 15 for future proofing. 16 even. Future proofing. Okay. And we'll get to work on that. Meanwhile, we'll just kind of leave this in here in limbo. By the way, while we're here, let's just add Soundwave 1 to our plans now that we have add it to our plans now that we have a thing that'll actually build it. So yeah, that was Udaner 1. Quick design there. Slightly more advanced rock. Well, it's kind of vastly more advanced than this, but it still can't really do anything else besides what that one was doing. Alright, so we've been getting unlucky so far. Our first ever rocket just exploded right off the pad. But that's going to change. We just got post-war rocketry testing. Now, that's pretty interesting, right? We're going to get a pilot just in preparation, because I know that soon we're going to be getting supersonic planes, and it's best to start your training for your pilots early, because yes, your pilots do need training in order to actually fly on some crew modules. So let's just go in here real quick. For example, if you want someone to fly a Gemini, they need to have proficiency training in the Gemini, and then mission training in the Gemini. And the mission training wears off after a while, so especially after every flight, the mission training will wear off. So proficiency training is permanent, then you get mission training, and that will allow them to fly one flight in a certain amount of time. If you take too long for them to get them on the flight, then they will lose the training experience. It's a lot more simple than I'm wording it, because I'm terrible at explaining things. But that's basically the gist of it. So John here will be in training until May of this year. So that should be good for him. I'm sure we're paying him a lot. Let's just wait until the morning. Stop with this nighttime stuff, man. Boom, that's beautiful. Soundwave 1, Redux 2, Electric Boogaloo. The better one. We'll see how this goes. Honestly, knowing test flight, I don't imagine it will actually be any better. I'm imagining the same exact thing will happen, or it will happen just late enough that we won't get into space today. Let's see. See? The heck is this? Ignition. I know I said I wouldn't cheat, but I want to just experiment with something here. I think it's my timing. I think I'm doing this too late. Usually the message there is a bit different if it's fully natural. I think I'm doing something weird all the time. See, find that time. It's a crooked flight trajectory, flying a bit to the side. Whatever, I'm not gonna restart. And by the way, yes, I am gonna keep that. It's gonna be ideally the only launch I have to revert to launch with, because I do want something to happen. I'm trying to balance, being perfectly legit about how things happen and keeping you entertained. And I'm terrible at it normally. I don't need random events to make me even more sad. This already isn't going to get into space anyway. I doubt it, anyways, because we're crooked. It's not going to get as much altitude. Or it'll gain twice as much. Okay, never mind then. So as you can see, we're making plenty of records here. Uncrewed speed records, uncrewed altitude records. And that will get us, I think it said it was getting us money and stuff. Here, we've done great for our first launch. And we're gonna bust that Carmen line contract in just a few here. Oh. Yes, distant object enhancement here. It lets you see little stars of planets and stuff. Oh, it's a lot easier to do it when the sun isn't in the way, but there's Mercury, Mars, Jupiter. It's very nice. Alright, there's the Carmen line, busted. Uncrewed altitude record, Carmen line, and we've got some leaders here. And I'll get to that when we get back to the space program. So yeah, this should be pretty standard, just gonna let this go. Actually, look at that. Nice. 4 points of science. 5 points of science. That might not seem like much to the uneducated eye, but this early on in this modded playthrough, that is very good. Bit of a destructive re-entry there. Very interesting. Our scientists will look into this and perhaps see how we can better our spacecraft when it comes to returning them to the surface later on. That is something we're probably going to end up doing, because you get a good amount of science for returning spacecraft that went to space early on, and, you know, it's crucial for the photography aspect, but I'll get to that later when we actually do it. Because it's best not to ramble about random stuff you aren't even doing yet, I've found. Ferrum Aerospace is doing very strange things to the aerodynamics of this bullet. Splash! Look at that science. The decoupler... right, this is, this can be interesting to look at sometimes, but half the time I found they don't work in the more complicated missions where you switch vehicles and stuff. They just never keep track of everything. It's kind of disappointing, honestly. Yes, of course, the Space Gazette. This is another neat little feature of RP-1. It'll give you these little newspapers that when you complete something. Soundwave 1 rocket has shot out of the atmosphere and into space on a mission of scientific discovery. For the first time, rocketry is not a weapon of hostile destruction, but an instrument to further our understanding of the universe. We are all hoping that as an age of world wars ends, an age of cosmic discovery will begin, and this flight marks the beginning of an era where the stars will start to seem closer and closer. Get some historical information here. First real life rocket to do this was V2 number 3 on the 10th of May 1946. A bit late on that one, it's 1951. But we are a month before that happened. Quite a few months. A month. Same thing. Launched from White Sands as part of the Hermes program, carried a Geiger counter, blah blah blah. We don't have that. Yeah, we're kind of behind realistic ones, but there's nothing you can really do at that. About that. You start in 1951 and you can't start any earlier. So let's get working on some material science. So this has some upgrades. It'll make our engineers more efficient, and it'll unlock aluminum tanks, which are lighter and allow for more fuel to be stored in them, and service module tanks. I don't think we'll be using that for a while. You just use a bunch of... You can put anything in there. Life support, ideally. Some science is always good. And while we're here, might as well work up our solid rockets a bit. Right? It's never a bad idea. After all, if we keep this going for long enough, we'll get the shuttle solid rocket boosters in 30 years. And this is, by the way, this goes all the way into, you know, the near future. And as far as 2028 year-wise. So it's very interesting. And we've got numerous parts here. We've got some space shuttle parts from another mod I've got installed, which I think will be very interesting when we get there. Because I do want to try and make use of it, even though it's very terrible and very difficult to make use of the space shuttle. Because it's just very bad. The space shuttle is very good at some things, but it really could not do other things. Alright, so we've got a unique little thing here. Reach 80 kilometers with 75 units of sound appeal. Now, completing this doesn't give us any money, but it does get us some confidence, which is needed to, you know, activate the faster versions of programs, and the reputation. That's a whole nother mechanic there. Reputation controls subsidy. So, subsidy lets you, kind of just gives you more money. And it decays over time. I guess to simulate people just losing interest. which makes sense because when you do nothing for a long amount of time, people start forgetting you exist. Isn't that right, NASA? Anyway, here we have some leaders now. I said I'd touch on this. Let's touch on it. So, these guys offer you some, first of all, some interesting history. If you read their descriptions, these are real, historically important people. And they offer you unique bonuses here if you appoint them as leaders. So, Chalamet here will give us confidence cost reduction for program evaluation. Now that's interesting, but not really so this early on. But it does give us a launch complex efficiency gain. By default, your launch complexes are more efficient, so this is handy because over time they get more efficient. This makes them get more efficient faster. You don't get as many reputation contracts though with Chalamet elected as a leader of your administration. Valentin Glushko, probably horribly mispronouncing these names, will reduce funds cost for researcher salaries because, of course, having people working for you, you need to pay them. Researchers are kind of expensive. With this 15% fund reduction, you can have more for less, which is great, especially early on. It allows you to get more things researched faster so you can get ahead of the curve, which is very fun. And as you can see here, it gets you more reputation from contracts, but it does take 10% more reputation to remove an existing leader. Now this is pretty much a non-downside because I never remove my leaders. I keep them forever for as long as they work. They stay for this amount of time, and then they retire, and you have to switch another one. And it seems like it didn't always used to be like this, but if you pick another one, and then after that guy retired, you can pick the first guy again. It didn't used to be like that. It used to be there were only so many, and I'm glad they changed that because that would lead to some problems down the road. Yeah, but, very interesting here. Sergei Korolev, if you are a loser like I am, because I wasn't born in Russia, and I can't say his name that way. Yeah, I get all these really weird tangents all the time, don't I? Yeah, that's a problem. Yeah, he's got kind of the same effect as Lushko here, though not as great an effect. But does actually, because I misread it. It's minus 12% funds for salary costs in general, not just for researchers. So this is very useful when you have a lot of people, which we don't. Especially, so we probably won't be taking, especially since he costs us program funding. And early on, that is pretty bad, but we do get more reputation contracts. Milton Rosen here, plus 10 speed for researching all technologies, confidence from science, but get program deadlines, program fund costs. Werner von Braun, confidence from contracts, reputation from contracts, reputation loss from reputation decay. See, can be interesting. I don't think he'll be our administrator. So, Satish Dhawan, I'll just say SD because I don't want to mispronounce his name. Gives us more science from transmission, which is awesome. Reputation loss from reputation decay is reduced, but we lose some fund at 8%, and that does kind of suck. And I'm not really sure what I want to do, but it's probably best that we go with Glushko. Let's see, it doesn't really have any downsides this early on. This will allow us to get more researchers. No, not really, since we're already on a shoestring budget. Alright, there you go. Got more researchers. This will decrease the amount of time it takes to research things. And, in fact, supersonic plane development has its development date pushed back just a bit. Or, well, push forward, I guess. Whatever the right term would be there. Yeah, as you can see, you can manage what order you want to research things here. It is pretty nice. was going somewhere and I forgot. So, obviously, I cheated there. Great start to my no cheating playthrough. But I promise I'll do better. So, here we're going to be doing something new. An altitude sounding rocket intermediate. We want to get 75 units of sounding payload to 80 kilometers. Now, I'm not entirely sure, but I do believe that our current Soundwave 1 rocket can do this. We'll see for sure, of course, in a few seconds here. After I quickly, work on it, and we'll do a quick simulation, whatever. This is the early game. I think in future videos I will learn how to edit and probably cut this annoying part out. Soundwave 2. I'm just gonna add an extra little tank. Reduce its size a bit. So it needs to be in high pressure steel fuselage. Sounding payload. It's how many units? It was 75. Alright, that's 75. And we're starting to get really close to the limits of this launch complex. Alright, Soundwave 2. This could be interesting. I think I might give it a slight extra boost off the pad using some of these R103 boosters. That does increase our delta V just a smidge. But honestly, that's not the problem. The problem is this thing has too much thrust for its weight. So it might be better to switch engines. Just to do some quick experimenting here with the CU-1250, which is a burn time of 56 seconds. But this one is a burn time of 60 seconds and higher performance. So we'll take it. Yeah, as you move on, you'll unlock better configurations for your engines. And that's always great, right? Alright, so yeah. Greatly overburning in here. Let's just reduce the length. Reduce it more. Very stubby little thing now, ain't it? Okay. Yeah. It's kind of lost its looks, hasn't it? We weigh... Well, it's lighter. That's interesting. Let's just test this real quick. Hang on, actually. I wonder, let's compare something here. So let's use this and unique, and we're going to check something. So, yeah, whatever. So nothing there without failures. Let's check here. So we've got some flight data. The more you fly, like I said, the more you fly your engines, the more data you get, and the more reliable they get. Some engines are just kind of inherently bad. The mean time before failure is 4.59 minutes, with an 84.93% reliability factor. For the 95.12% at max data and mean time before failure, between failures is 15 minutes. Let's check this. 91 reliability mean time between failures is 11 minutes, 11 minutes. Much better. That's, yeah. Well, it's not much better, but it is significant enough that I will switch to it. Let's simulate this, though. Always simulate things. Yeah. Future videos will definitely need to be edited. Because this is kind of exhausting for me. As it turns out, it's kind of annoying to talk at nothing for a while. I'm figuring that out now. I've never really voiced my videos before. So, I'm discovering here with you that I'm bad at doing it. Okay, let's just, camera shot. Thumbnail material. Yeah, don't mind me. Just so anyway, you know, what was I talking about? That's pretty thumbnail material too. It's not time. Okay, we didn't quite make it to space, but this will complete the contract, and we will get some data from this. Yeah. We're gonna get some data from this. It's not a lot of data, but it is some data. We'll just run the simulation to see what data we would get. How much? This is crazy. It's got like a ring of deadly debris orbiting it at incredible speed, shattering anything that gets close to it. Anything foolish enough to approach it. Alright, so yeah, this would complete the contract. We get some nice reputation and some nice confidence. Though I don't really care about the confidence that much. Yet, anyways. I never really use it this early on. Alright, so let's keep this here, and we'll see how much science we get by the end of this flight. 412. We'll get some extra science. It's nothing super impressive. Nothing to complain about either. And then this thing will do its grand show of falling through the atmosphere at great speeds and suffering the consequences. Alright then. And now that we know that we should definitely not be using the Veronique and instead should be using this engine, let's start using this engine instead for our other sounding rockets that actually make it into space. This is Soundwave 2P for payload. Soundwave 2P for payload. And we'll just have Soundwave 2. Well, hang on. Well, let's build Soundwave 2P first. Tool it. Yeah, whatever. Build it. Can't build it. Great. So yeah, I don't know if you see that. Let's just I'll go back. Insufficient AK-20 at the LC. 287 required. 0 available. Modified. So this uses different propellants from the Veronique. We use kerosene, AK-20, and nitrogen. And the Veronique uses kerosene, ERFNA-3, and water. So yeah, different propellants, because this launch complex was originally built for a different engine, using different propellants. It now needs to be modified if we want it to work with this. So yeah, as you can see here, we'll just change the amount. We'll put in 350, 400 for extra modifications down the line. The more you change these numbers and the bigger you make them, on average, the harder it gets to, you know, make them. And as a result, the longer it takes to make them. The more advanced your launch complex is, or you could say, the more complex your launch complex is, the longer it'll take to build it, usually. Modifying it is always, it always takes less time and is always cheaper, usually, than making a new one, but sometimes it is in your best interest to make a new one. For instance, just because you can make a spacecraft work with a certain launch complex doesn't really mean you should make it work with that launch complex. It might, maybe the rollout times will be annoyingly long compared to if you had it on its own, or maybe maybe something else. Maybe rollout times might be bad, integration times might be bad. Maybe it's really expensive to build that complex because it needs a lot of engineers to work efficiently. There's a bunch of different things that could be causing you a headache. Alright. This is Soundwave 2. was already tooling. Tooling is interesting. I guess I should touch on this. So, I haven't really talked about it. I've just been pressing the button instinctually. But tooling basically makes it so you have to pay an upfront cost, but it allows you to make the parts from the procedural tanks. It allows you to make tanks in that exact same arrangement, same type, same diameter, same length. It allows you to make more craft using that exact kind of tank for cheaper. So, you know, tooling kind of supports the idea of, you know, reusing the same kind of designs in more advanced spacecraft down the line. That being said, it is, you know, you can also just tool a diameter. If you tool a part that's in a certain diameter and you keep building spacecraft that use that same diameter, it will be cheaper than, you know, using tooling a new diameter in a different, whatever. Okay, I'm not the guy to ask, really. I hope you get the point. There's a whole Discord channel for this mod. Okay, that's how you know it's serious. There's a whole Discord channel full of people who play this, just because it's kind of complicated. Okay. Yeah, if you wanna just find the Discord channel, it's just Realistic Progression 1 or RP-1 on Discord. I don't know. I'm sure there's a way to find it. I'm sorry that I can't really, you know, tell you where it is. All I know is it exists because I'm a part of it. If you want solid answers, go there. I'm not the person to ask about most things relating to this mod. I just play it for fun, man. I don't really know what half of what I'm doing actually does. The effects of my actions are unbeknownst to me. Okay. Yeah, let's just see if this works. Seems to work. Okay. So this thing spins up into the great beyond. It's just look at something else. What? Why not? Let's look at Uranus. Or not. Yeah. Right. Tracking station. Patch conics are weird. But as you can see, we've got an accurately, well, mostly accurately. Everything's kind of on this weird tilts. Whoa, everything's on this weird kind of tilts relative to the sun. And this is because the people who made the solar system really wanted to emulate seasons on Earth. And as you can see, they didn't work. We've got the sun in the North Pole, but it's shadow in the South Pole. And it does work, but everywhere else it's completely inaccurate that way. Oh, yeah. So this is burned up. We're just gonna make it to 80 kilometers. Everything else is completely inaccurate. So Uranus is on this weirdly tilted orbit. Mars is on this weirdly tilted orbit. Vesta and Ceres, Saturn, Neptune, even Pluto is affected by this inclination. Now, while this does make every other planet kind of inaccurate, it does make Earth accurate to real life. They wanted to, you know, make the tilt. That's how seasons on Earth work, right? Earth is kind of on its side a bit, so as it orbits the sun, you know, the angle of sunlight changes and whatever. I shouldn't have to tell you this. I'm not your science teacher or anything, but they wanted to model that on Earth, the real solar system, folks. So they did it by just tilting everything's orbit. Now, while that does mean everything else is kind of inaccurate, you spend the most time at Earth, okay? So obviously it's most important that Earth is accurate. As for effects this has on gameplay, not much. It makes it a bit weird when you are, you know, cheating with hyper-edit, and you're like, why can't I get to anywhere easily once I've cheated somewhere with hyper-edit? It's because you have to be at this weird inclination angle, or it's just hard to get to anywhere. But it does make it does confuse mech jeb with its maneuvers, it can make it harder for it to understand what exactly it's doing, I've noticed. And it can also bug out. Even the patched conics in the game, it can sometimes just not tell you if you're going to encounter a body, or it'll get rid of the closest encounter markers when you're just about to get an encounter. KSP's always been kind of weird like that, but notice Real Solar System really tends to bring out the worst in it. So yeah, I guess beware of that. So yeah, this has completed its mission. I'm just gonna watch as it dies, as it careens into the lake, river, ocean here in between lands. Cape Canaveral looks very nice in comparison to the land around it. Yeah. It's a nice mod, but I think I've uninstalled it incorrectly, or there's some conflict or something, because it's just making this weird texture pasted above the ground. It's really strange. Okay, time warp, folks. What's this? This is really strange and crooked, but okay. Bye. Thank you for your service. Let's go back to the Space Center. Alright, so we got some quick and dirty science from that. Not a lot. You know, I've been recording for quite some time now. I should probably end this episode. In fact, I think I will, because shorter videos tend to do better on the algorithm, I hear. And this isn't a very short video. So yeah, I think I'll invest in more rocketry. It's usually the better thing to invest into. Though supersonic flight should also be invested into, so we can get this X2 cockpit upgrade, increasing the service ceiling, which is a whole nother can of worms, which I won't get into yet. So yeah, we've got some nice stuff done. Well, not really. We've done basically nothing. We're still in the first year. Again, next video will pretty much need to be edited in some form, because this is terrible. But here we've got the Udoner complex is now done. That will be interesting in the next episode, whenever that will be. Soon, I promise. We'll build the Udoner rocket. Get some nice science. We'll have to. Ideally, we won't need to be launching these tiny, little, itty-bitty 5mm rockets anymore, or 500mm rockets. But yeah, that should be this episode done. I really hope I should have been recording. I didn't see any problems when. Yeah, I really hope that the recording came out clear, because in my experience, it doesn't always work that way. But yeah, of course, if anyone actually watched this far in the video, let me know if you like this, what I could be doing better, because I'm sure there's tons of things I could be doing better. I know there's tons of things I could be doing better, because I'm actively doing some things worse than I could be. If there's anything you want to see, also let me know, because I'm very open to suggestions. Usually when I do this, I do generally the same thing. There's a dog barking outside my house now. Perfect timing to end the episode, I guess. Usually I end up doing the same thing. I try to get Hydrolox engines really early and just kind of go through that. Spoilers! But there's plenty of ways to play this. I pretty much never get these oxidizer-rich stage combustion engines. I might get this node, and then I'll immediately realize Hydrolox is just way better. Because it is. It's a lot more efficient. It's more expensive, miles more expensive, but it's a lot more efficient. I like the blue flames. I'm a sucker for the blue fire, but if anyone wants to see something different, that's great. I'm not gonna change the launch sites, because I'm too used to this site. You know, if you want me to build a certain craft a certain way, please recommend that. If anyone made it this far, which I'm sure no one did. Yeah, thanks for watching. If you like this, maybe consider hitting the like button. I'm sure that does something. Again, comment if you want me to do it. And if for some some reason you want to see more of this, briefly consider subscribing before changing your mind and not doing that. Don't make a big mistake and subscribe to this channel. I don't know, I'm gonna seem like one of those cheap inverse psychology people. It's just like, don't do this, but I really want you to do this. Whatever, I'm ending the video. Goodbye. Thanks for watching. Bye.